Alright, well, it's story time because that was by far the weirdest interaction I ever had with hotel personnel in all of my years of traveling and staying in hotels. It was super bizarre, so buckle up. There's gonna be a change of plan. I think instead I'm going to grab all of my knitting supplies and go down and maybe get a start on some sweater knitting. Like I said, it's been a while since I've knit anything. Man, I'm feeling rusty. I am not at 34 rows, I'm at 27, which is not really far off, but it's also not really close. So I'm done with it for now. Gonna get something to eat, gonna go to the theater. I'll probably see you at the show. Hello friends, welcome to day 3 of Vlogmas 2023. If you've missed the first 2 installments, they're going to be linked in a little playlist right up there. But we are now day 3 and we have found ourselves in West Palm Beach after a rather uneventful, rainy, gloomy transport day. But now it is quite sunny and beautiful, and originally the game plan for today, because we do have the rest of the day off, was going to be getting a head start on basting all the pieces down for my Christmas stocking, which I'm going to be crazy quilting. Again, I did talk about this in the previous episode, so check those out. But having arrived here and seen the situation, first of all, our hotel room has absolutely garbage lighting, and second of all, if we look out the window here, we can see that there is an absolutely lovely little plaza area down there with some very comfy looking couches. So I think there's going to be a change of plan. I think instead I'm going to grab all of my knitting supplies and go down and maybe get a start on some sweater knitting. What do we think about that? Let's go. Now, this is my first knitting project of the season, so I admit to being really rusty on everything, basically, but particularly the casting on situation, because this sweater specifically is a really stretchy knit. Refresher, here's the pattern here. It's basically entirely in ribbed knit, so I'm thinking I might want to use a different cast on, like one that's a little bit stretchier than the classic one, but I'm not entirely sure. I'll get back to you on that. I did message the seller of the pattern to ask what she used, and she did say she just used a regular cast on, so I don't know. Gonna do a little bit of research, good old YouTube University, and see what I come up with, and I'll get back to you. So, upon review, I think I'm just going to go with the good old long tail cast on. That seems to be kind of a happy medium. It's stretchier than a normal cast on, but it's not the stretchiest of all the options, and it doesn't seem to be particularly fiddly, and I'm pretty sure I've done it once before. I think that's what I actually did for my V-necked vest. So that's what I'm gonna go for. That's what I'm gonna be doing. Hopefully it goes well. As I said, I haven't knit in a while, so there's a chance that I'm going to have some tension issues right from the start, but I hope not. Also, who decided to give me long, sharp, pointy objects to wave around as I speak? Speaking of which, man, I got so many comments on my Victorian patchwork video of people complaining about how much I use my hands when I speak, which, first of all, it's just who I am. If you don't like it, click off. Like, it's that simple. Just click off the video. You don't need to leave a nasty comment. But second of all, do people not gesture as they talk? Is it that strange? I just imagine these commenters surrounded in their lives by people wearing straitjackets and with absolutely no passion or emotion for anything that they do in their daily lives, which is just sad. But anyway, back to the topic at hand. Let's get knitting. All ready to start knitting, and I don't even know how many stitches I need to cast on. I think I'm gonna have to pull up the pattern instructions. Man, I'm feeling rusty. Okay, so all cast on and ready to go. Tension looks quite nice, although I will say definitely overestimated on how much yarn I need. So now I'm going to start knitting the rib pattern, and I thought it was just a simple rib, like, you know, knit 2, purl 2 or something, but it is actually not. It's slightly different. So this is what I'm going to be knitting for the next little bit, and hopefully the rib starts to come together. Let's go. Just made it to the end of round 1, and my stitch counts ended up correctly. You know, I finished with my proper knit 3, purl 2 like I'm supposed to, which is always a bit of a relief because I find knitting the first row the hardest because the pattern isn't established yet. So for me, when I'm knitting, if I think, oh, I spaced out, maybe I made a mistake, I tend to just look at all the knitting I've already done and the pattern and see if there's a problem with the pattern. But when you have only one row, and when it's the first row, it's a little bit hard to tell, oh, did I knit 3 or did I knit 2? I can't quite tell, and then you have to really examine them. So getting to the end of the first row and having it done and not having made any mistakes, great success, means I'm also confident enough that I can actually rip off this long tail cast on, which I had kept just in case, I don't know, I made a mistake or something. But I am committing to ripping this off now and continuing with the rest of the knit, which means I can officially change my stitch counter to 1 row and keep going. So, fun fact about this wool is that these are not at all the original colors that I was planning on using for this sweater. I knew that I had to get this specific type of yarn, drops alpaca, right? That was the whole reason I was doing this pattern, is it was going to be a really easy knit if I used the right yarn and the right needles, and I was looking for an easy knit. And I did visit some brick and mortar shops in Montreal because I wanted to support local businesses and because I like feeling things in person. Unfortunately, however, none of the shops that I visited actually carried drops, so I figured, okay, I'll try and buy it online instead. And the problem I hit there was that it was really hard to nail down what the colors actually looked like, because depending on which website you looked at, the same color varied wildly from photo to photo. So sometimes a brown would look really dark and warm, but that same colorway on a different website would be much lighter, or it would be much cooler. And since I was trying to find not just one color, but 2 colors that paired well together, it was really difficult and I was getting kind of frustrated. Fortunately, my roommate came to the rescue and she had discovered another yarn shop that I had never been to. So we took a little field trip and visited it. It was very fun, super cute little yarn shop, and they did have drops alpaca. So that was really fun to just see the yarns in person and touch them, and it vastly ended up changing the colors that I went with, because originally this cerulean blue was in my head going to be a light sky blue. But when I saw the blue in person, the sky blue was it was very flat and plain, which is fine. Sometimes it means that the color comes across stronger if it's not broken up with other bits of other colors in it. But in this case, this cerulean blue was just much richer. It has these flecks of green and other shades of blue kind of woven in a way that actually really, really reminds me of my 1940s vintage coat that I made. It's a little bit darker, but it's got similar flecks of greens and purples even. This reminds me a lot of it. But then once I chose this darker cerulean blue, the brown that I was thinking I was going to use didn't actually match it very well. It was okay, but it definitely wasn't as good as I would have liked. So instead of going with a warm, a little bit darker brown tan color, I ended up going up with this, which is a cooler, well, relatively cooler gray tone. And I just found that was a much better color combination. I don't necessarily consider color combinations to be my strength, although some people in the comments of my videos have been saying they really enjoy my color combinations. So apparently it's something I'm getting better at, but I would not naturally have considered myself particularly good at color combos. But either way, I just consider myself super lucky to actually have been able to go to a physical yarn shop and look at this yarn in person, because it did vastly change the colors I ended up using. Alright, so here is how far I've gotten so far. That takes me to row 16. Well, currently working on 17, but my hands are starting to cramp up pretty bad. Like I said, it's been a while since I've knit anything, so I think I'm going to call it quits for today, and I'll just catch up with you at some point in the future.
Hold up, I am on my way, I'm in motion. Let's go to the ocean. Yeah, let's go outside.
The future involved heading out with a few friends to explore the city by night.
We can hang out on the beach without freezing. Yeah, isn't that amazing? In Christmas time.
Alright, I'm back, and I've gotten this far, which is the point at which I should be starting to do the cables for the waist shaping, and I have two concerns so far. One is fairly minor, and that is that I don't seem to have very much yarn left, and I only have a few more balls of this color. Like, I have the correct number of balls according to the pattern, but it just seems like it's gonna be tight. So I'm crossing my fingers and hoping that I'm not gonna end up playing yarn chicken on this pattern. The second concern is maybe a little bit more complicated, and that is that to get to this point here where it should be 4 inches, which it should be 34 rows. However, I am not at 34 rows, I am at 27, which is not really far off, but it's also not really close. So I'm not entirely sure. I'm hoping this isn't going to become like a big problem later on. So for now, I'm just going to write down this number for future reference and for doing the front pattern, and going to keep going, and hopefully I don't have to adjust things too much like going forward, but we'll see. So that's where I'm at, and now I'm gonna start doing the waist shaping, which is gonna need some cable needles. Alright, well, it's story time, because that was by far the weirdest interaction I have ever had with hotel personnel management of any sort in all of my years of traveling and staying in hotels. It was super bizarre, so buckle up. As you saw, I was filming that little section basically backed into a little corner of the hotel, and I searched this corner out specifically with the requirements that it be quiet, out of the way, nobody else could wander through the shot, and that it had, at least okay lighting. So I'm not bothering anybody. I'm in a really weird corner of the hotel that literally nobody is walking through. So I filmed that segment, and then I stopped and I had my knitting on my lap, and I was on my phone because I wanted to check the audio to see if the audio had actually gone through to my phone. And I see out of the corner of my eye someone kind of walking towards me, and I glance up, I see that she's working for the hotel, but I figure like she's on her way to do something else, so I go back to working on my phone, and she continues to approach me and then stops less than a yard away from me, but then just stands there. So after a few seconds of her standing there and not moving, but also not saying anything to me, I look up at her, and she's looking at me, but she has the weirdest look on her face. She's staring at me like both condescendingly and also like I am the most suspicious individual she has seen in her hotel to date. Already I'm like, okay, this is going to be interesting. So I look over and I say, yes. And she goes, are you staying here? Do you have a room here? And I said, yes. And then she asked me, well, what room are you staying in? Which admittedly, it took me a second to come up with the room number because one, who keeps like their room number on the top of their head, but also because we've been staying in probably about 6 hotels in the past 7 days. So already the hotel rooms and what floors are completely a mess in my mind. So I probably did sound kind of suspicious. I had like fumbled for the thing and then I came up with the room number. And then she said, what's your last name? So I gave her my last name. And then when she's still staring at me suspiciously, I say, I just came in with that large group. We're the circus company that arrived yesterday. And she's like, what? Like she has no idea what I'm talking about, even though she's the manager. I'm like, okay, maybe she wasn't working yesterday or maybe she didn't hear me, so I repeated it. I'm here with the large group of performance circus artists. We're doing the show across the street. We came in yesterday on the huge bus. To which she says nothing and then just continues to stare at me. So at this point, I'm like mildly irritated. So I literally just go back to my phone and continue like doing stuff for about 10 seconds when she still hasn't done anything and she's still just standing there staring at me. So I look back up at her and I ask her, is there a problem here? And she goes, yes, you can't film here. It's against policy to film on hotel in the hotel. To which I like literally held up my knitting and I was like, I was just like talking a little bit about my knitting. And she was like, yes, but you can't film in public in the hotel. It's against our policy. That's why you were reported. Already the verbiage, I'm like, okay. So I said, okay, I'm sorry. I'll go back to my room to film. If it's really that big of a deal, there's no light up there, so that's why I was down here. To which she just kind of stares at me. And it was such a weird interaction because, like, I understand if it's against policy, there are some strange policies, and she's not the one who makes the policies. She's most likely just the one who enforces the policy. And I generally try not to take out stupid policies on the people enforcing them because I understand it's not their fault. So, like, she could have just come up to me and said, hey, I'm sorry, one of my employees said she saw you filming here, and I just wanted to let you know that it's against hotel policy to film in public, and that if you want to do it, you have to do it in your room. And I would have been like, okay, that's fine, thank you, sorry about that, I'll go up to my room. Could have been a very pleasant, normal interaction. But instead, the entire time, her tone was so condescending, and she was just regarding me like I was the most suspicious person she's seen in her entire lifetime. I didn't belong in the hotel. I obviously was squatting there. I could never have a room there. And then also the fact that she was the one that had the issue with me, but that I was the one that had to initiate every instance of conversation. That her tactic was just, I'm gonna stand there and stare, but not say anything, which was super weird. And I found it kind of disrespectful, especially because, like, if I was a paying client, like, obviously I'm not paying for the hotel rooms, it's the company. But if I was a paying client, I would feel like kind of disrespected about it. I don't know, I just thought the whole thing was really kind of rude. I've kind of lost my taste for filming, and anyway, it's about time to go to the theater. So I'm done with it for now. Gonna get something to eat. Gonna go to the theater. I'll probably see you at the show. This theater was gorgeous, with a huge stage door and a large and well-lit loading area, which everybody with large props especially appreciated. Phil and I set to work unloading our pole, which is not unreasonably long, but does require some help and is not necessarily quick either. Once it's all set up, then we always climb and go set the trims just to make sure that none of the scenery or lights are so low that we hit them.
2 feet of my trim here would be good.
Saying 2 feet would be enough.
Stop. Tiny bit more.
Every venue is different, so we do this at every single theater.
Yeah, how's that weight?
Then, once we're done with that, it's time to get ready for the show. Well, that about does it for this one. I hope you'll join me in a few days for even more crafting fun. I know that this episode was very heavy on the knitting, so perhaps in the next one I'll try and switch gears and get started on a little bit of sewing, probably in the form of some chicken scratch, because I know that that concept intrigued a lot of y'all in the comments, so maybe I'll get a head start on some of that. I have some very fun ideas that I'm contemplating doing. Also, we'll be in Savannah, which I'm really looking forward to. I hear we're being launched in a very cute part of town, so really looking forward to that. Either way, it's gonna be a hoot, tons of stuff to look forward to, so be sure to tune in for that. Additionally, I see that some of you have been leaving questions and comments down below. Trust me, I am reading them all, I am making a list of the questions, and I am just enjoying so much all of the comments, so please keep them coming. They are bringing an immense amount of joy to my heart, reading just everything that everyone is doing, all of the love and energy and creativity that's being poured into the presents that you're crafting, things that you're working on, and also really enjoying everybody weighing in on the Christmas lights debate, because there are some interesting combinations down there that I didn't even consider for Christmas decorations. So thank you so much for sharing all of your traditions, opening up, telling me what it is that you'll be doing for the holiday season, because it is really helping me get in the holiday spirit over here. So keep them coming and just know that I'm really enjoying them. That's gonna do it for me. I'm going to once again wipe off the makeup and go to bed because we are hitting the road tomorrow. So take care, have a lovely day, and I'll catch you in the next Vlogmas. Bye! Whew. Wow, that's what I want for Christmas. I want a Christmas elf to come wash my makeup off my face for me.